The rifts opened on a Tuesday, not with a warning, not with a countdown. One moment the sky above Aran was gray and overcast, and the next it was torn. 3 jagged tiers of violet light, splitting the clouds above the eastern wall, and through them came the hollows. Tall, faceless, the kind of creature that shouldn't exist outside of a nightmare. By the time the city's defense sirens started screaming, the eastern district was already gone. Kairo heard the sirens from the evacuation staging ground at the central plaza, wedged between a woman carrying an infant and an elderly man who kept asking if the buses had arrived. They had arrived. The military buses, the armored transports, the 2 cargo lifters, all of it had arrived, and all of it was already full, not of civilians, of officers, of General Orvain's personal staff, his equipment crates, his tactical advisors, and the 43 soldiers he'd decided were too valuable to leave behind. The general himself stepped out of the command tent for exactly 11 seconds. Kairo counted. Orvain looked at the crowd of 800 civilians, looked at his full convoy, and said, "Enough for everyone to hear. We cannot save everyone. A soldier who dies for nothing saves no one. Capable will survive on their own." Then he got into the lead vehicle. Someone in the crowd shouted. Someone else started crying. A young officer near the gate looked back once, jaw tight, then looked away and climbed aboard. The convoy rolled out through the south gate at 6:10 in the evening. By 6:30, the south gate was sealed from the outside. Kairo stood in the empty plaza as the light failed and the sound of the hollows got closer, that low resonant hum, like a chord played on an instrument built from wrong materials, and he thought, "There is no one coming. There are no more buses, there is no cavalry on the way. This city is a tomb, and the question is whether he becomes part of it or whether he finds something else to do with the next few hours." He chose something else. He started moving. He knew the layout of Aranvil's central district better than most. He'd worked maintenance contracts here for 4 years. Every drainage pipe and load-bearing wall and substation junction box. He picked the old logistics depot on Crest Lane. 4 walls of reinforced concrete, a partial roof, a loading bay that could be sealed, 3 backup generator hookups. Crucially, a basement level that the hollows, based on what he'd seen in the eastern footage, seemed to avoid. Instinct, not strategy. He gathered 18 people on the way. They ran. They made it to the depot, with the first wave of hollows 3 blocks behind them. Kairo was pulling the loading bay door shut, manually, because the power was out when the system spoke. Warden's Codex. Awakening detected. Condition. Encirclement. Population. Non-zero. Designated zone. Active. You are the last authority structure within the perimeter. X has activated. The class unlocked. Warden. Lord Builder. Ability 1. Fortify. Designate any structure within your zone. It reinforces to maximum structural integrity and self-repairs at a rate of 4% per hour. Ability 2. Stockpile. Any food, water, fuel within your zone is preserved indefinitely, and its yield is amplified times 3. Ability 3. Zone expansion. Every 72 hours your zone remains populated and defended. Your designated perimeter expands by 1 city block in all directions. Ability 4. Warden's Directive. Issue a zone-wide command that all inhabitants can hear and are compelled by instinct to follow. Note: the Codex activates only under total encirclement with no external authority present. You qualified 22 minutes ago. Kairo read every line twice. Then he closed the bay door, turned to the 18 terrified people behind him, and said, "Power's out everywhere except here. We have food. The walls are going to hold. Nobody panic." That was day 1. By day 7, the walls of the depot had sealed every crack and reinforced every seam without a single tool being lifted. The basement was warm, lit by generators that shouldn't have had enough fuel but did. Kairo had 41 people. He'd issued his first Warden's Directive on day 3. Search the adjacent 2 blocks for survivors. Bring everyone back before nightfall. And the group had responded, like they'd been waiting for someone to give them a reason to move. They came back with 23 more. By day 14, the zone had expanded. The hollows tested the perimeter twice a night and found walls that didn't break. The humming would build, and then it would stop, and in the morning the walls would be whole, and the people inside would be fed. Word got out, it always does. By day 30, Kairo had 312 people. He had a functioning water rotation, A medical station run by a former nurse named Lessa who had somehow kept her kid intact, a watch schedule on the wall, and a second fortified building connected to the first by a covered walkway that had appeared overnight after the zone expanded again. The stockpile ability meant the food they'd gathered on early runs was feeding everyone at full ration with surplus to spare. He began stockpiling the surplus in the eastern annex. He didn't celebrate, he planned. By day 50, the rest of Arenvale was unrecognizable. The outer districts were rubble and ash. The hollows had nested in the towers along the northern ridge, their humming audible on clear nights from 3 kilometers away. Survivors who made it to the perimeter described streets that were impassable, landmarks gone, entire neighborhoods swallowed. The old defense grid was silent and dark, all that expensive military infrastructure abandoned. They all said the same thing when Kairo let them through the gate. They hadn't believed a safe zone was real until they were standing in front of it. Some of them cried. Kairo gave them a bunk and put them on the watch rotation the next morning. By day 70, 580 people lived inside the zone. Kairo had expanded it 11 times. There were 3 fortified buildings, a reinforced interior courtyard, a sealed rooftop garden that Lessa had started on her own initiative and staffed with a rotating crew of 6, and a command tower. A single reinforced stairwell that let Kairo see every rift flare within 2 kilometers. He tracked them on a hand-drawn map updated daily. He knew every pattern. He knew when the hollows surged and when they retreated. He knew the 3 weak points in the eastern perimeter and had shored all of them up before the hollows found them. He also knew, from the long-range scanner function the Codex had quietly unlocked on day 60, that a group of approximately 40 people was camped in the ruins of the old military command center in the southern quarter. Moving slowly, heading north. He knew who it was before they arrived. They appeared at the perimeter gate on the morning of day 99. General Orvain looked like a different person. The uniform was torn, the rank insignia missing from shoulder. He was thinner. The 31 people with him, the remnant of his staff and personal guard, the ones who hadn't been picked off in the weeks since the convoy was ambushed 12 kilometers south of the city, looked worse. They stood at the gate in the cold morning light, and Orvain looked at the walls, at the rooftop garden, at the courtyard, visible through the gate where children were eating breakfast, at the command tower where Kairo stood looking down at him. A long moment no one spoke. Then Orvain raised his chin. "Old habit, we require entry. I know who you are," Kairo said. Another silence. Orvain's voice, when it came again, was quieter. "We have wounded. We haven't eaten in 3 days. Whatever I said on the day of the evacuation." He stopped. He looked at the gate, then back up at Kairo. "Please." Kairo looked at him for a long moment. At the 31 people behind him, soldiers who'd been following orders, most of them, caught in decisions they hadn't made. At the 2 who were being held up by the others, injured, struggling to stand. He looked at the gate. Warden's directive available. "Open the gate," he said, not to Orvain, to the watch on the wall. The gate opened. "Wounded go to Lessa's station. Eastern building, first floor." "Floor," Kairo said as they filed in. "Everyone else gets a bunk assignment and a meal. You work the same rotations as everyone else here. The watch schedule is on the board inside." He paused. "There is no rank inside this zone except warden." Orvain walked through the gate without speaking. He paused once, just inside, looked at the courtyard, the children, the rooftop garden overhead, the whole living machine that had grown from a depot and a maintenance worker's memory of load-bearing walls. And his jaw moved, but no words came. He didn't look up at the tower again. Kairo turned back to his map. Outside the city hummed, the walls held, the food stores were full. And somewhere in the rubble of the world that had decided he wasn't worth saving, the Codex ticked quietly forward, calculating the next expansion, the next directive, the next block of ruin that would become something worth living in. Day 100 was tomorrow. He had work to do.